and welcome. It's always so lovely to host you every Wednesday here at Digital Earth Africa. Greetings, fellow leaders from across the African continent and the world. It's so lovely to have you here with us. My name is Maud Nale. I'm the communications lead at Digital Earth Africa. Today is a very special day. Well, of course, it is our live session, which we're going to be starting with. And then we are going to host a very special International Women's Day Roundtable. I'm so excited. I'll tell you a little bit about that a little later. Today's topic as part of our live session is all about forest monitoring. And I'd like to immediately go straight into it and introduce today's facilitator. She is no stranger right here at Digital Earth Africa. She has presented many a live session and she's going to be doing the same today. Her name is Victoria Nyaga. She is all the way from Kartoza, and she will be speaking to us about forest monitoring. Victoria, I know your video's turned on and I know you're unmuted, so I'm going to give you the virtual stage at this point. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Maud. I'm going to share my screen now so we can all see the presentation. Great. Today we're going to be talking about forest monitoring. For those who are new, I'll be focusing on the notebooks that we have in our Analysis Sandbox. The Africa Sandbox is a cloud-based computational platform that operates using a JupyterLab environment. We provide users with a limited but free computing resource so you can be able to explore our Africa data and products. Forests are very important to people's lives in Africa. They play a very crucial role, especially in tackling the biodiversity and climate crisis we are facing today. Data from the Fortune of Africa website estimates that forests and woodlands in Africa occupy about 21.8% of the land area of the continent and account for about 6% of our GDP. This makes monitoring of forests very important to countries, also because measuring the overall success of the 2030 agenda, forests play an essential role in meeting many of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the Sustainable Goal 15. Africa provides open access to Earth observation datasets for cost-effective and accurate forest monitoring. Forest monitoring is defined as the regular and periodic measurement of certain parameters of forests that could be physical, chemical, or biological to determine baselines to detect and observe change over time. In the Analysis Sandbox, we have a few notebooks that measure different forest parameters. In the real-world examples, we have the burnt area mapping using Sentinel-2 data. We have the monitoring changes in forest extent that uses the Global Forest Change dataset. We have monitoring Mangrove Extents that uses Sentinel-2 and the Global Mangrove Watch. We have vegetation change detection, which uses Landsat 8 surface reflectance. And we have the surface mining screening use case, which uses Sentinel-2 or Sentinel-1 data and the WRF's annual summary. We're going to start off with the monitoring changes in forest extent notebook. Now, the product that we use is the Global Forest Change 2020 to 2021 dataset, which contains the forest cover loss event layer, which shows the forest loss during the 2000 to 2021 period, the tree canopy cover layer that shows the forest cover or tree cover in the year 2000, and we have the global forest cover gain layer, which shows forest gain from the period 2000 to 2012. The notebook we're talking about provides an app or an interactive tool for selecting, loading, and plotting these layers. The default area of interest that the notebook uses is the Mafunga Busi forest land in Zimbabwe. We can see from the dataset the forest cover loss that occurred for the area of interest from 2001 to 2021 as an individual layer. But if we want to see all the layers together in order to get a more combined picture of what has happened to the forest area, we have the option of loading all layers and plotting them together. So on screen, you can see the yellow pixels represent the global forest cover gain for 2000 and 2012. Because of the large area we are using as our area of interest, you can't really see it in the picture, but the forest cover gain is there, as we can see that there's 0.0164 kilometers squared of total forest cover gain. Now, the red pixels are the global forest cover loss, which was a measure that occurred from 2001 to 2021. The green areas just show the forest cover percentage that was there in the 2000, which serves as a baseline for all the layers for the global forest cover change. Next up, we'll see the burnt area mapping using Sentinel-2 data. This notebook demonstrates how to derive the normalized burn ratio spectral index from Sentinel-2 data and how to calculate the change in the normalized burn ratio between the baseline composite image for the pre-fire condition of the area of interest and a post-fire event image for the area of interest. The purpose of this is to find the burnt area extent after a fire has occurred. The default area of interest for the notebook is a fire that occurred in northern Ghana, where the start date and the end date of the pre-fire period was defined as 2nd of October 2019 and 31st of December 2019. The fire date was or what we'd say when the fire occurred was 1st of January 2020, with the start and end date for the post-fire period being 2nd January 2020 and 31st January 2020. The normalized burn ratio is derived from the near-infrared and the shortwave infrared bands from the Sentinel-2 dataset, and it uses the differences in the way healthy green vegetation and burnt vegetation reflect light to find burnt area. The change in normalized burn ratio, also known as the delta NBR, is calculated by subtracting the post-fire NBR image from the baseline NBR image. The image on the left is the RGB image of the median baseline composite image, and the image on the right is the NBR image of the median baseline composite. We can see from the legend provided, the range of values for NBR is from -1 as a minimum to 1 as the max. Healthy green vegetation will have high NBR values as shown by the blue regions, while burnt vegetation will have low NBR values as shown by the red regions. Also, dry or brown vegetation or bare soil will show up as red regions. The image on the left shows the post-fire RGB image. How the post-fire image is selected is by getting the earliest and the clearest image in terms of cloud cover from the data loaded for the post-fire period. On the right is the NBR image that shows the earliest and clearest image in the post-fire period. Again, the values range from -1 to 1, with healthy vegetation having high values, the blue regions, while burnt vegetation in this case will have low values, the red regions. Also, again, areas of dry brown vegetation or bare soil will also return lower NBR values similar to burnt vegetation, indicated by the red regions. Due to the similarities between burnt vegetation, bare soil, and the dry brown vegetation in terms of NBR values, we threshold the image as seen in the next pictures. The image on screen just gives a comparison of how the baseline and post-fire images will be compared side by side. You can see quite a few more red regions in extent as compared to the baseline NBR. The small squares are the farm's hotspot data that has been downloaded and plotted over the post-fire NBR image. Now, to be able to detect burnt area better, it's better to use the delta NBR than the NBR alone, because it shows a change from the baseline state. The burnt area will have a positive delta NBR value, while the unburnt areas will have a negative NBR value, or a value close to 0, which is indicated by the white regions. From this image, it's not, it would not be correct to assume that all the red regions are burnt areas, which is why we use the threshold I talked about previously, with the threshold value being 0.3. So from the delta NBR values, we define burnt areas as those areas with delta NBR values greater than 0.3, which you can see have been with the mask applied to the burnt RGB image. We can then calculate a few statistics like what is the area in kilometers squared of the burnt area, and what is compare them to the total area and the unburnt area in square kilometers. We can see for the area of interest, the percentage of total area burnt would be 8.18%. The next notebook we can use for forest monitoring that is available on the Analysis Sandbox is the Monitoring Mangrove Extent notebook. This uses the Sentinel-2 data and the Global Mangrove Watch dataset. The Global Mangrove Watch dataset consists of a global baseline map of mangroves for 2010 and changes from this baseline for 6 epochs, which are 1996, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2015, and 2016. You can use this dataset to identify mangrove ecosystems and monitor changes in mangrove extent. The goal of this notebook is to demonstrate how you can use this dataset, the Global Mangrove Watch layer, as a baseline mask combined with Sentinel-2 to track changes in mangrove forests across Africa. The default area of interest for the notebook is for mangrove forests along the river Kashu, I hope I pronounced that correctly, in Guinea-Bissau. How the notebook does this is we load Sentinel-2 data for the area and time period of interest, which in this case was 2017 to 2021. We apply tide filtering. This is because shorelines are very important in mangrove, as mangrove usually grows on the coast, and the location of shorelines on satellite images can vary greatly from low to high tide. We then use the tide heights calculated from the O2PS tidal model and get images only taken during mid-tide conditions. That is when the tide was between the 25th and the 17th percentile conditions. We then calculate median annual summaries of NDVI from the filtered Sentinel-2 time series. On the left is the tide model heights for the entire 2017 to 2021 time period calculated, and the values that we are only interested are the time between when the height was between the 2 red lines you can see on the plot. On the right is the Global Mangrove Watch layer we are going to be using to mask our NDVI annual summaries in order to operate in peaks in areas classified as mangrove already. From the NDVI annual summaries, we mask We use the 2016 Global Mangrove Watch layer to mask the area so we can only work with pixels in the mangrove area. The dataset is then classified into either regular mangroves or closed mangroves using a decision tree. The regular mangroves are mangroves with an NDVI less than or equal to 0.7, and closed mangroves are mangroves with an NDVI greater than 0.7. We can then, from this classification, be able to get the change in mangrove extent over time. On the left, we've overlaid where we found new mangroves as green areas and where loss of mangroves was detected, the pink areas, as you can see where the cursor is. And we also have the stable mangroves which have not changed throughout the entire analysis period, which which are pixels identified by the color yellow. The next notebook we'll talk about for forest monitoring is the vegetation change detection notebook that we have that uses Landsat 8 surface reflectance. We measure the presence of vegetation from the Landsat imagery and use a hypothesis test to identify areas where significant change occurred. And we also identify the direction of change. That would be whether afforestation, which will be positive change, or deforestation, which is negative change, will have occurred. The default area of interest for the notebook is the Northern Tinderet Forest Reserve in Kenya, with the analysis time period being 1st of January 2013 to 1st of December 2018. We'll notice, as I'll show later in the notebook, that we need to separate the data, Landsat 8 data loaded into the baseline and post-baseline samples for comparing vegetation change. And the date used to separate the data into these two samples is 1st of December 2015. The image on the bottom right shows where statistically significant change occurred, with the red areas being deforestation and the blue areas being afforestation. The test used to look or detect this change is the Welch test, and the null hypothesis for the for vegetation change detection is that the two samples have equal average NDVI values. The NDVI is derived from the Landsat surface reflectance data loaded for the entire analysis period. This hypothesis is rejected if the p-value from the Welch test is less than the chosen significance level. In this case, the value is 0.01. After the hypothesis testing, a pixel is the change that occurred in a pixel is determined by getting the difference in the mean between the post-baseline and the baseline NDVI samples. The positive values from this subtraction is what is classified as forestation, with the negative values being deforestation. For the area of interest that we used in the notebook, 7.44% of pixels likely underwent significant change in direction, with 5.63% of pixels likely having undergone deforestation. The final notebook that we will talk about is the surface mining screening use case. This notebook uses the Sentinel-2 annual GeoMAD or Sentinel-1 data for the vegetation index, and for the water detection, we use the WAF's annual summary. This notebook demonstrates a method for identifying areas of surface mining activity, and it does this by combining methods on vegetation loss and water detection. A quick disclaimer for this notebook is that although it aids in detecting these areas, further verification is needed by government agencies or institutions to validate the operations on the ground. The default area of interest for the notebook is the Eastern Apam Forest Reserve in Ghana, with the start and end year of the analysis being 2017 and 2020 respectively. First off, the notebook starts by loading Sentinel-2 GeoMat data, or you could use Sentinel-1 data, and the WWOOF's annual summary data for the area of interest and time period of interest, and pre-processing and cleaning of steps are applied to the data. You could, we've plotted for 2017 and 2020 the annual Sentinel-2 GeoMat. From this, the NDVI is derived from the Sentinel-2, or RVI is derived from Sentinel-1, and a threshold is applied to determine significant vegetation loss. Annual vegetation loss is then plotted over all years of the analysis, and total vegetation loss from this annual vegetation loss is calculated. You can see for the area of interest, loss increased over time with a sharp spike from 2019 to 2020. We then, from this data, identify high potential mining sites, and we do this by getting areas where water and vegetation loss are coincident. We also define high potential mining sites as areas within 250 meters of a previously identified high potential mining site where there was only vegetation loss identified and not water loss. We plotted the possible mining sites over the Sentinel-2 GeoMat to give a clearer picture of where possible mining areas might be. Finally, in the notebook, we calculate the vegetation loss from possible mining sites and compare it to all the vegetation loss across all years that was previously calculated. We can see when compared across years, the vegetation loss from possible mining was 0 in 2017, which is our base year, 4.8 in 2018, and 2.5 in 2019. With the in 2020, we have it at 17.41%. So these are all the notebooks that we have for that you can use for measuring different aspects in forest monitoring. You can view, this is a plot. Before I continue, this is just a plot that compares all vegetation loss from possible mining across the 2018, 2019, or 2020. You can view all these notebooks in the Analysis Sandbox. We also have the notebooks on GitHub where you can view them and download them for use. To see the datasets, you can also visit our Dear Africa map, and to get help, we have the help desk available for all your questions. We also do have the learning platform where you can take the Introduction to Sandbox class and other courses that we have, which are self-paced, free to access, and fully online. A certificate of completion is awarded upon the completion of all the exercises. Thank you for your time, and over to you, Maud.
Thank you so much to you, Victoria. Indeed, it is self-paced, it's freely available, and it is online. I hope you found that useful. It was all about forest monitoring. Victoria did mention or redirect us to a site where we can find all of this. So please do log on to our website, www.digitalearthafrica.org, and you will be able to find everything, not just on forest monitoring, but anything that you would need that will assist you with your research or to make your work even better. Thank you so much, Victoria, for your time. We look forward to seeing you again in a few minutes. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a very special day. I did say that in the beginning. And I'm going to start off with a quote by the late, great Maya Angelou, where she says, "I am a woman phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me." Today is all about us. So to all the ladies in the house, today is our day. Every year on the 8th of March, International Women's Day is celebrated as a day to appreciate the women in our lives and also acknowledge their success, contributions, and achievements. It's also a day of hope and reflection and a celebration of gender parity in all walks of life. Today, we acknowledge the woman's strength, courage, patience, as well as promote the global support for women. I'm so excited to be hosting this part of our very special event as we get to celebrate the women right here in our industry who are doing amazing things in their pockets of excellence. So let's get started, leaders, with our roundtable discussion. I'm now going to be introducing our very first participant. She is a GIS professional with over 10 years experience, currently working with Esri as a senior solutions engineer for Middle East and Africa, where she supports users of Esri technology in applying GIS solutions to achieve sustainable development across the continent. She is passionate about supporting career growth activities for young professionals through assisting academic and research institutions plan out internship activities, participating in mentorship, accelerator, and user community programs as mentor and advisor, as well as speaking in technical meetups. Please join me in welcoming onto the virtual stage, Pauline Okeyo, Senior Solution Engineer from Esri. Indeed, you don't have to wait very long for my love, little mama, Pauline. It's lovely to have you with us. Let's get started. I'm sure the leaders are very interested to learn a little bit more about you. So how did your career start as a woman in science?
Thank you, Maud. Hello, everyone. So my career started very many years ago. When I was 10 years old, I developed a strong interest in geography because I had a really good geography teacher. And since then, I was very lucky that as I progressed, I kept on getting really good geography teachers. So for my undergrad, for my bachelor's, I chose to pursue geography, then to pursue a career in applied geography. And at some point, I did a bit of IT. And I came across GIS as something that would allow me to apply the geography as well as the IT aspect. So that has been something fortunate for me that as soon as I finished my undergrad, I was able to start getting roles in various companies at different levels around GIS. Yes, so that's basically how I got into it.
What a decade of GIS it's been for you. We're very excited to learn a little bit more about you. Welcome. It's lovely to have you as part of our roundtable. Now I'm going to be introducing our second participant. She is pursuing her PhD in water resources engineering at Kyoto University, all the way in Japan. She was awarded her bachelor's in agricultural and biosystems engineering from the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya, in which she specialized in soil, water, and environmental engineering. She was a technical intern at the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development, or RCMRD, as they popularly known as, and RCMRD is one of our implementing partners in Kenya. Please join me in welcoming, as part of this roundtable, Eileen Magero. I hope I'm not going to be giving you the shivers today, Eileen. Lovely to have you as part of our panel. I'm going to ask you the same question about your journey. You're currently in Japan, but where did it start for you?
For me, similar to Pauline, it started in high school. I had an amazing agriculture teacher, so I was very passionate in agriculture. That's why I decided to pursue a BSc in agricultural and biosystems engineering. And then while I was continuing with my studies, I became more interested in water. So I specialized in soil, water, and environment engineering. Then afterwards, I was fortunate to get a scholarship here in Japan at Kyoto University, where I study water resources engineering under the supervision of Masayuki Fujihara and Unami Sensei. So those are my professors. Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping we're going to weave in some Japanese in there. I'm not sure if the audience can speak, but I'd be certainly interested to learn a little bit of Japanese whilst we have you. It's lovely to have you with us, Eileen. Thank you so much for giving of your time and us. And then I'm going to introduce our facilitator, or our next participant.
So greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, it's a small technical hitch. Our next presenter should be, we have Pauline, we have Eileen, and now Victoria Nyaga. Victoria, welcome so much to this session. Just stepping in for a small technical hitch, and cognizant it's Happy Women's Day, and some of you have been my mentees as well and mentors. Please tell us about yourself and how you came to this journey of Earth observations. I know I met your lecturer, Pauline. Over to you, Maud. I will have the introduction, and Victoria is on the stage. Thank you so much.
These things do happen, leaders. It's the virtual world we're living in, but the celebrations continue nonetheless. I'm grateful to my colleague Ken, who was able to introduce you, Victoria, in my absence. And now I'm going to introduce my next colleague, or I let the cat out of the bag. She is a colleague, MphoSadiki. She is a colleague here at Digital Earth Africa. She serves as the EarthObservation data scientist. In her role, she works on creating, managing, and delivering continental services and products using Earth observation and geospatial data, which will provide insights that support sustainable food management, agricultural practices, food security, and urbanization on the African continent. Please join me in welcoming onto the virtual stage, MphoSadiki.
Thank you, Maud. Just before I start, I'd just like to point out that Victoria actually didn't get her chance to speak. So after I go, please just give her chance to speak. Thank you. My name is MphoSadiki, and as Maud already stated, I'm an Earth observation data scientist at Digital Earth Africa. And my journey also began in high school. It was in the 11th grade when I had to decide what to apply for in terms of university. But I was a bit unsure about what field to pursue, but I knew I enjoyed geography and I was getting decent marks. So when I came across the description of BSc Geoinformatics at the University of Pretoria, I was hooked immediately. So fast forward to now, I'm in my 9th year studying geoinformatics. I'm currently in my 2nd year of my PhD program with a specialization on the use of Earth observation data in wetland mapping and monitoring. Thank you.
It all sounds very exotic, Paul, if I may say so myself, but we look forward to learning a little bit more about you in a bit. I'm going to take a few steps back and introduce the participant before you. Victoria, you were our facilitator. I don't know if the leaders here know more about you besides the fact that you're a junior developer at Kartoza. So do you wish to tell us a little bit more about yourself, and most importantly, how did your career as a woman of science commence? Over to you.
Thank you, Maud. My journey will be similar to what Pho went through. In high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I did know the subjects I was good at, which were some math and geography, and relatively good in physics. And so when the time came to apply to universities, I saw geospatial engineering, and I figured, why not? And when I got in, I was really intrigued. And but really what got me fully focused in the remote sensing or GIS side of things was a class that was led by Dr. Simeon Kanani at the school I was in. And how we introduced it was fascinating, and the sky was the limit. It was what I felt at that point, and I haven't looked back.
What a beautiful story. I've always known you as part of our family, but you've got a very beautiful story to tell, and we look forward to learning a little bit more about you as we go and as we continue with our roundtable. Now that all the leaders have had an opportunity to introduce themselves, I'm going to ask our Zoom master if we could spotlight all of them so that they can all be on the screen at the same time as we go through our virtual roundtable. And maybe I will start with Pauline, since you went first, and you can get us started on this conversation, Pauline, about how your journey has been. It's been 10 illustrious years, but how has it been? And I think most importantly, what have been some of the challenges that you've had to overcome on this journey as a woman in science?
So for the over 10 years, I would say that I've worked in different organizations that promote a culture of learning and collaboration. So that meant that in most of the roles that I got from earlier on, definitely because GIS was also growing at that time as an industry, as well as having more people who are participating in this industry and so on. It was easy to get a lot of resources to help me learn and see where do I want to fit within the broader industry. So I was able to just to move from the entry level or to mid-level up to where I am right now because of accessing information here and there, also working with people who are very open to show me a few things here and there. So I'm very lucky about that. And on the aspect of collaboration, because initially I started working for the Kenya government in biodiversity management, that meant that I would get to interact with a number of stakeholders from different areas and so on, be it research, from technology and so on. So that actually also helped me to progress to where I am right now. I would say the challenge that I faced previously, which I think it's common for entry-level professionals, is the aspect of learning to speak up, learning to request for support, which, you know, at times maybe you feel like you don't want to show that you might not know everything. So definitely, I think as the more that I became more comfortable in terms of requesting for assistance and support, the better I excelled within my role and so on. So I'd say that inviting input and feedback and support from other people is something that was not coming easily for me earlier on, but with time it's become easier, and that has made it possible for me to navigate within the industry.
Very interesting. Eileen, what about you? Challenges? How's the journey been?
My journey has been quite interesting, but my main focus is on studying because I'm trying to build my knowledge so that I'm able to contribute towards the achievement of SDG Goal 6, which is on clean water and sanitation. So the challenge I'm facing is reading many scientific papers and having to express my ideas coherently. So that is one of the things that I'm working on. And by improving that skill, I'm able to build my confidence so that I'm able to join the industry eventually, especially through applying scientific principles and solving the problems that are existing in water. Yeah.
I think what I'm getting, or what's coming through quite clear from the conversation thus far, is that it hasn't been easy. It wasn't a walk in the park, as many of us think it was. And so even as we celebrate today, I think it's important for us to know that this journey, even just as women, and besides women in science, is going to be challenging. And I'm loving that conversation as it continues to build. Victoria, you're also part of this conversation. Some of the challenges that you've experienced, how has your journey been?
My biggest challenge was since I'm still very early in my career, is the transition from a school environment to a professional environment. In the terms of you learn a lot of theory in school, but when it comes to a professional environment, you need to have the theory and also know how to apply it, be up to date with the latest technology that people are using or procedures. And that was a very interesting and challenging process for me. But I was doing that within Kartoza during my internship period. The people around me made it easier than it would have been if I was on my own. And they took time out to teach me. They were there when I needed help, and also gave me opportunities when working with clients or doing tasks on how to show how much I've learned so far. That would be how my journey has been so far.
Very interesting journey indeed. I love how someone has said in the comments section, it's good to see women in science. Women work double as hard to break the barriers of male-dominated industry and having to prove themselves. Yes, women can deliver excellently on any role afforded to them. It's encouraging to see the transformation. And from here onwards, young ladies should take the baton. Indeed, they should. In fact, all of your accounts are reminding me of a quote by Oprah Winfrey in line with our theme of International Women's Day. She says, think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness. So it's very exciting and interesting to know that even though it's been such an amazing journey, or an illustrious one, it hasn't been without its challenges. But let's balance this conversation. We spoke about the challenges. Let's zone in a little bit on our career success. And I'm sure we've all had it, whether we're starting out or like you, Eileen, as students. Maybe we'll go with you first this time, Eileen. Students all the way in Japan, what have been some of your successes?
One of my major successes was starting my PhD program, because I didn't think I'll ever reach this high level of expertise. And then my main success was publishing a paper on nonlinear dynamics. And because it's a very challenging topic and I was able to write a paper, that was amazing. Yeah, and expanding knowledge in the field. I never thought I'll be able to make such a contribution to science, and I'm impressed.
Great, I'm loving the way you're smiling about it. You clearly were impressed. Paul, what about you? Career success thus far?
For me, I mean, I spent 7 to 8 years at university before I entered the workforce. So my professional achievements are largely tied to my academic pursuits. So of those accomplishments, I'd say completing my master's is up there. It's probably top of the list. And that's because I started my master's during COVID 2020. So I feel like I had to weather a lot of challenges emotionally and just a lot of emotional up and downs that I had to get through and overcome in order to finish my master's within the stipulated time frame. So that for me was really a great success. And obviously starting my first job and having it being with the University of Johannesburg, being part of one of Africa's first knowledge transfer partnership projects, and then subsequently joining Digital Earth Africa, these have marked significant milestones for me in my journey to becoming an academic and researcher in the future.
You also sound excited too, Paul. I'm happy to hear you've also achieved success. And just for the sake of our audience, Johannesburg is based in South Africa, and that was the university that Paul was privileged to work for. Pauline, your success after a decade?
Within the 10 years, I would say some of the things that make me feel like it's been worth it. I've had responsibilities around project management when it came to introducing application of GIS into different sectors or industries. So I led various teams, and we worked together to implement some key projects where we can see that the impact of that has been amazing, to see how these organizations have been able to apply technology, as well as improve how the providing access to geospatial information after different activities, such as census activities, such as humanitarian work, and so on. I would say the other thing which recently I've been happy to be part of is supporting user communities across Africa to apply, again, geospatial science in the aspect of access to data, use of tools, taking them through some of the learning resources we have. That's under the Africa Geoportal. So it's been great to see how we have people in different groups, categories, have been able to leverage what we have and take advantage of that and do some really meaningful work and share their stories around this. And finally, one of the greatest achievements I feel I have is on the mentorship aspect. I have supported a number of programs over the last 4 years, different cohorts over this, to help young professionals navigate the early stages of their career, also help other professionals who are transitioning from established careers in different industries into the geospatial industry. And that has been, I'd say that has been the most rewarding achievement that I have, just seeing them start out their careers and grow within it. And it's great to see how that has been progressing and seeing where they'll go with this. Yeah.
I'm loving the smiles that are coming through from all the ladies as they share their success. And Pauline, you touched on something really important about mentorship, which was going to be the lead up, or my next question is, did you have mentors, ladies, on your journey? And maybe for someone watching this and thinking, I don't really need a mentor, how important was it for you and how important can that be for us? I'm going to rope in Victoria at this point. Victoria, mentor importance?
Yes, mentors have been very important to me from school, even now. I have talked about Dr. Kanani. He was the one who introduced me and showed me what is capable with the EarthObservation datasets. That was, he was a very key role together with my supervisor, Dr. Olo, when I was in school. Professionally, I will talk about my co-workers who were there when I had absolutely no idea on how to do things, which ties in with one of my greatest success was the successes that I mentioned. I remember is working on the FAST notebook. I remember regular meetings with Ife from the Australia team, and she was always there when I had questions and always going through the notebook I was working on over and over again until I got it right. And I still remember that. And so I think mentors are very important in our journeys.
Eileen, what about you all the way in Japan? I know you spoke about your professor, your supervisor. What about mentors?
Oh, yes, I did have a mentor, one of my professors when I was in Kenya, because after graduation, I was confused on what to do, because I either wanted to study or work. So it was a very big decision. And he advised me to continue with my studies and guided me on how to apply for scholarships. And I was lucky that I did get a scholarship for my master's and PhD. So having a mentor is really important because they are there, they already know how the industry is and what it needs to take to move to the next level, and also which problems to focus on. So yeah, my mentor was really helpful during my journey. And now my professors are also guiding me in the scientific world, and I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Paul, what about you? Mentorship?
Well, I haven't necessarily had a mentor in the conventional sense, but I've always had supportive academic supervisors throughout my studies. But now that I'm in Digital Earth Africa, I found myself surrounded by exceptional individuals, and most of them are women. So I'm hoping they can take me in under their wing and help me find my footing within the industry. And also, I feel like being surrounded by such accomplished women in Digital Earth Africa, not only is it empowering and inspiring, but I see them as role models who have excelled in their respective fields. And I hope that their experiences and insights will help me as a new person in the industry and give me guidance and support in navigating the nuances of the field and building a fulfilling career. And I think because we all have different or diverse perspective and experiences that we all bring to the table, I'll be able to enhance my learning and growing opportunities within the company as well. So although I've not had a mentor in that conventional sense, I look forward to having one here at Digital Earth Africa.
And it's nice to see the balancing views coming through from you ladies. Some had mentors, others did not. But either way, you've achieved success despite the challenges, and you made it work, which makes me think of the saying by the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, former First Lady of the United States of America: there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. There's no ceiling. We pass through the ceiling, but we're going to need help for us to be able to do that. And you got it, whether it's in the form of a person or you aspire to have a mentor. Mentorship is quite a critical key to our success, not only as females, but as individuals. So thank you so much for making that commentary come through quite clearly. As we prepare to wrap up, I think the leaders are quite interested to know about what's next for you. You've achieved all the success, but I'm hoping this is not the end, or today is not the end of the success. So what's in it for you, or what's next for you on your journey? And I'm interested to hear from everyone on what's next for you. Maybe Eileen, you can go first this time.
Oh yes, thank you, Maud. What's next for me? I feel like I've studied a lot. So the next step will be application of all this knowledge that I've acquired over the years and probably further my knowledge through experience now, because I feel like I have a lot of theory. So I'm looking forward to applying like Earth observation and modeling in solving water problems. And especially like for us, one of the challenges in water is finding indicators for when conducting water management. So Earth observation will be a very great tool. And I look forward to exploring more on Earth observation. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you've admitted that you feel like you've studied a lot and now you need practical, but we wish you well on that. And please do keep us informed on how that goes as you continue on your journey. Pauline, after a decade or more than a decade, what's next for you?
So I would say, as part of my role is to interacting with different user communities across Africa. I intend to do more of that in the course of this year. So I know a number of them are already represented on this call. A number of them, we have a really good relationship. And I hope that we continue to grow that relationship in seeing how can we continue to empower different user communities with access to data and technology. The other thing on the mentorship front, so as Esri, this year we launched our initiative for highlighting the successes of women across the Middle East and Africa through different avenues and so on. So that's something that I'll be supporting my colleagues on in terms of identifying and supporting and highlighting the great activities being done or being led by women across the region. So I look forward again to interacting with many people who also happen to be on this call, just to see what you've been doing and how you've been supporting the industry and so on. So yeah, looking forward to a lot of that this year.
It's such exciting. Please do keep us informed of developments and on that in coming months. Victoria, very quickly, what's next for you in your career?
I'm really inspired by everyone else, the panel. They either finished with their PhDs or working with on their PhDs. And I want to get into a master's program and eventually become a doctor and contribute to the scientific community in that way.
So there's Eileen, who doesn't want any more theory. There's you, Victoria, who wants more. I'm loving how this conversation is building. Mpho, what's next for you?
Well, for me, I think to start, I just want to excel at my role at Digital Earth Africa. I'm committed to making a meaningful contribution to the team. I want to demonstrate my value, and I want to build a strong reputation, not only in the industry, in the organization, but also in the industry in general. And obviously, I want to complete my PhD. Everyone, hold thumbs that I finish it next year, but who knows? We'll see how that goes. But that's basically what's in the works for me.
I'm feeling like there's all this knowledge in this group. I feel like I'm the only one that's left out. Maybe I should also go and do a PhD, and so that I can also level up and be in line with everyone. I'm going to ask us each one last question as we prepare to wrap up, and maybe we can make our answer 30 seconds or less. Let's try. Advice for someone watching this and thinking, I want to be like her. What advice do you have for her? Victoria?
Well, start from wherever you are. You don't have, since we're talking about the geospatial field, you don't have to be a coder. There are various projects that need people who are good in design, documentation. So just start from wherever you are.
I love that, concise. Start where you are. You don't need anything technical. Start where you are. Do it where you're planted. Start first. I just love that. Pauline?
I would say join a community. So we have various chapters of women in GIS communities across Africa. We have data science communities, we have environment and so on. So they're really good to expose you to opportunities of growth, networking, of just learning from other people and so on. I would say that's something that would be very critical for your progression in your career. Yes.
Mpho, what about you?
I'll speak to the aspiring women in science. I would say that it's important for us to recognize that as women, we face a lot of barriers in this male-dominated field. So we need to work to break those down. So we need to seek out opportunities for mentorship, networking, and supporting with other women in science. And we need to also advocate for diversity and inclusivity within the workspace. And this is important because diversity in perspectives and experiences is crucial when we want to have innovation and progress. So we must embrace our differences and create an equitable world where everyone, and women especially, can thrive. So pursue your passions with confidence and know where you have the power to make a difference. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. And to wrap this up for us, Eileen, advice for aspiring women who want to be like you all the way in Japan.
So I have two mantras that I say every day. The first one is do it scared. The second one is fail forward. So despite the challenges that you might face every day, just try your best and do it scared. Even if you fail forward because you have learned from your mistakes. Yeah, thank you.
So in summary, start where you are, join a community, seek out opportunities to grow and network, and do it scared, but most importantly, fail forward. This has been such an amazing conversation. Time flies when you're having fun, but let's not let this conversation end here. Today may be International Women's Day, but I believe it's a day of celebration every other day this year. I never want to leave us, or we never want to leave you without giving you an opportunity to connect with us and this larger community of ladies, of people, women in science, and just a Earth observation or science community. So please do connect with us via our social media platforms. You can catch us on quite a few. Our website is www.digitalearthafrica.org. Email address is info@digitalearthafrica.org. We're also on Twitter as well as LinkedIn and YouTube by the same name, digitalearthafrica.org. Let's connect on any of the platforms of your choice. Let's continue such conversations so that we can continue to grow the circle of Earth observation and women in science as we celebrate International Women's Day. We host these live sessions every Wednesday of every month in English and in French. Today was in English. Next week, it will be in French. So if you loved this conversation, I believe we're going to be doing another celebration of women, but this time it's going to be in French. So if that appeals to you, or if you speak French and you're part of that community, please do join us next week at 11 a.m. GMT0 as we have that conversation with our women in science from the Francophone community. It's been an absolute honor being your host today. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We are going to take a group photo, so please do stay and network for that opportunity. But until we meet again, please take care and be safe. And depending on where you're joining us from across the world and the continent, have yourself a very good morning, good afternoon, a good evening, and good night, especially if you're alien and you're all the way in Japan. Take care and be safe.
I don't know if I should say anything, Dr. Ken, but thank you for putting a spotlight on me. It's quite encouraging. I think as women, as I've posted in the chat, women continue to work double the time to prove their work in any workplace, in any industry. And it's quite encouraging to see that the panel today has been young women. It does create a platform for young girls as well to come into the industry. So as we enter the industry, we also need to, there's a saying that says, open up the industry as well, that you encourage other females or ladies or young girls to be part of the industry. This has been quite empowering, and I'm very proud of each and every panelist in the room. And I do acknowledge that there are other women in science that are in the room today. So thank you for inviting me, Maud, and the team. Thank you, colleagues.
It's always lovely to hear from the Managing Director of Digital Earth Africa. Thank you so much to you, Dr. Xaba, for gracing this virtual stage and for being present at our events. We truly, truly appreciate it. There's a saying I found when I did a search, which I think was so appropriate as we close off today's event. It says, yes to strong women. May we know them. May we be them. May we raise them. I want to wish all the ladies here today a happy International Women's Day. Go out there, be courageous, be patient, and be strong. We celebrate you not just today, but every day this year. Again, it's been an honor. Let's connect via our platforms that are on the screen, and we look forward to continuing this conversation as women in science and as a community. We're now going to take that pit view. Thank you so much for your love and support of this community. We'll meet again next week. It's going to be in French. We're also going to be celebrating our Women in Science from the Francophone community. So if you speak French, you have an affiliation for French, want to learn French, want to get to know the Francophone community, join us next week. I'll hopefully be your host, and I'll be doing it with one of my colleagues. I'm so excited, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, please take care. Be safe. Have that very good morning, good afternoon, a good evening, and a good night.